Today I'm making a traditional Irish beef stew. This is something that my grandmother used to make us, usually on St. Patty's Day, but during any special holiday we'll make it. You want to start off with about 2 pounds of well-marbled beef chuck roast. Dice it up, and all we're doing here is putting a bit of a color on it. You don't want to really char it or really get it crusty. You're just looking to sear in a little bit of the flavor, give it a nice even coat of color to it. It's not going to be cooked completely. You'll do that later in the process. This is just to add a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor to it, really to seal in all the juices that you're going to get as you cook the meat down. Now, as you can see, it's starting to get that nice brown color to it. That's what you're looking for. Like I said, nothing too extravagant. You don't want to really burn the meat. Turn it over, make sure that every side is cooked. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, you're just trying to add some color to it. You're trying to lock in the juices that the meat is going to give off as the fat inside it starts to render down. Now once the meat has gotten to that nice brown coloring that you wanted, just everything is seared in, start transferring over just the meat into your crock pot, into your slow cooker. You want the juices to stay, there's a little bit of fat there left over, because you're going to use that in the next stage. Now with the remaining juices, what we're going to do is we're going to add in about 2 stalks of celery and a large onion. We're going to dice the onion up, slice up the celery. Some people don't like the ribs on the back of the celery. They find it too woody, too tough to chew. Others have no problem with it. If you don't like the ribs on the back side of it, you can peel them off before you cut and add it in. But again, it's not a requirement to have them gone. You know, any remaining meat, just take it out, cut it into the pot. But when you're looking here, you're trying to get just some coloring on it. You're not trying to get the onions to where they're translucent. You're just trying to pick up all those num-nums that we call them on the bottom of the pan. Anything, the residual beef flavoring that was left over, the onion's going to soak that up along with the celery, and you're going to get start getting a nice almost caramelized color, but you're not really caramelizing the onions. You're getting them soft, but you're not really getting them translucent. You're not getting them really limp like you normally would when you're sauteing any vegetables. Here you're just trying to almost just get the flavors to absorb into the onion, into the celery there, and just like I said, you're just adding flavor to it all. Now you can see the onions are starting to get a brownish color to them. That's about what you want them to be. You know, they're not really, like I said, they're not translucent. As you can see, they're still white, but they've got that nice color. From here, you're gonna scrape this into your crock pot, and then put the pan back on the stove. You're gonna add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And what you're going to do here, you're going to add a little bit of the Irish beer. I prefer Guinness, especially the extra stout. It's got more flavor to it, more meat. There's a running joke that Guinness is the only beer that you need a knife and fork to drink. It's a very thick beer, very full of flavor, lots of protein in it. What you want to do is you're making the base for what's going to be your sauce later on. You know, the tomato paste will help thicken it up. You're going to use a little bit of the extra stout there. You're basically just going to wet it down, because paste it's a pain to work with as it stands. When you take it out of the can, it's really thick. It's almost like spackle, if you know what spackle is. But you know, you're also using this to, again, you're soaking up any leftover flavor that the beef and the onions might have left. Okay, we got everything together. It's all cooked up. Now we're going to start the liquid, the base of it. Start off with 2 bottles of the extra stout. The recipe my grandmother used always called for a pint, but I can't really measure out a pint. I don't have no way to measure a pint. So, you know, I just put in 2 bottles. It's a little bit more than the pint, but hey, added flavor, right? Also, you want to add in 4 cups of beef broth. It's going to add more of a beefy flavor to it. I've got ground thyme there, but you should really use the dry thyme. However, the people I'm cooking it for, they don't like the leaves of the thyme. So we use the ground, about 2 tablespoons of it. It's the same flavor, but you just don't have to worry about, you know, like I said, the leaves. Do about 2 teaspoons of salt, which is a little bit, you know, cup of your palm, a little bit amount there, pour it in. Do 3 large carrots, slice them up, you know, peel them up. You're gonna add in a ½ pound of potatoes, peeled and diced, and about 2 or 3 parsnips. Have those peeled and diced as well. Now, if you don't like potatoes, you can always use celery roots, but I would figure since you've already got the celery in with the onions, you really don't need to add more celery to it unless you really like the celery flavor. You want to make sure that the root vegetables are washed really well. Scrub them off, make sure that there's no embedded dirt, which is where the peeling comes in at. I know there's a lot of more vitamins in the peels of like potatoes. However, if you don't trust where you get your vegetables from, there are the great thing about peeling them and dicing them up is you can see any imperfections inside the root vegetable. And believe me, insects love to bore into these things and eat them out. Now, you can either, if you're in a rush, you can cook it on high for 4 hours. But for this to be a truly good stew, it needs to be slow and low, 8-hour cook. Give it a little mix up, put the lid on, and ignore it. All right, here's 8 hours after cooking. You can see everything is coming together very nicely. The house is just full of a aroma that I swear can only be found in the pantheon of gods. I'm adding a little bit of the broth right now to some cornstarch. It's going to make a bit of a slurry, and that's going to help thicken up the stew. When I make a stew, I like to have it thicker than what it is right now. I mean, right now it's basically set up as more of a soup than anything else. And for me, a stew needs to be thicker. It needs to stick to your ribs, especially, you know, on a very cold day. You know, you want to have a bowl full. You want it to be, you know, sticking to your ribs. You want to feel full after eating it. And for some reason, soup just doesn't do it. Mix the slurry there. Make sure that you don't have any lumps. You want to get it as smooth as possible, because if you pour lumps into your stew there, it's just going to keep creating lumps. And you want something that's going to be nice and smooth all throughout. Alright, once you've got the slurry poured in, let it cook for around ½ an hour, and then serve up and enjoy.